am I today? I'm not where I said I was going to be. I was going to do the Pennine Hills, but I decided that was a bit ambitious, seeing as this is only the 5th ride of the season. Anyway, we're in the village of Alne, which is north of York, between York and Easingwold. And we are heading off in a clockwise direction. Just thinking, have I got everything I need? I always forget something. We're heading off in a clockwise direction, and I think I know what was causing the rattling on my last video when I went to Studley Royal and Fountains Abbey. I think it was the metal, the wire ball in my shaker. I brought a protein shake with me, and it's got this metal wire ball that helps you shake it and make it all frothy, and I think that's what was rattling as the bottle got empty. So when I drink it, I'll remove that ball. So adjust my camera. Meanwhile, we're coming up to the first point of interest. Just at the top here, there's a crossroads. If you go straight on, you get to the Old Walk toll bridge across the River Ouse, or it might be the River Yore there, because the Yore becomes the Ouse before it gets into York. But we are turning right. But on this crossroads there's something interesting. Hi. Hi.
Yeah, I saw that in my dad as well when he was kind of knocking on.
It's a Saturday, so there should be quite a few cyclists around. Lovely day in early May. Yeah, point of interest number 1 is this, which is called Alne Cross, and village of Alne is where I started off my cycle ride, just down there. And as you might be able to see, in the early 17th century, Alne was struck by the plague, and in the same way that they did with the village of Eyam in Derbyshire later that century, the locals used to leave money in a trough with whatever they used for disinfectant back then, if you can see it, in that trough. They used to leave it so other people outside the village could leave food and things for them. And this cross, it's this as I said earlier, was probably an actual old cross, the remains of. So it's all quite interesting. So that's point of interest number 1. I'm heading up this road, which goes through, well, it goes to Borough Bridge, but before then, and we will go through the village before then. Before then, it goes through the village with 2 names, which we'll come to later. But first, we'll go and look at the scene of a medieval battle. And I'll also tell you why on cycle routes many people call the little lane that we'll be going down, they call it Ken's Corridor. and I'll tell you why when we go past it. Get quite a few cars on this road, but it's not too bad. Apart from cars like that are going really fast. I think we've got a motorbike now. Blimey. What did I say about it being quite quiet? Anyway, I missed that turning down there, and there's another turning up here. Goes to the little village of Aldwalk. Terrible road surface here. Sorry about that, bumpy. Yeah, the village of Aldwalk is an interesting little place. I'll take you to it on another ride. And there's also Aldwalk Toll Bridge, which is an old toll bridge. But yeah, you still have to pay to cross it. Not if you're on a bike. It's free for bicycles and motorbikes. I think it's 40p for cars, which is quite reasonable and hasn't changed over the years. I think they applied to have it changed, but I think the local council said no. I'll tell you all about Aldwalk Toll Bridge on another ride. Well, maybe we'll cross it. It's just been refurbished, so we'll go across it on another ride. Maybe as soon as tomorrow, I don't know, haven't decided. This is the other turning to Aldwalk. This is the village of, I think it's pronounced Floworth. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. Correct me in the comments below. Over on the right, you won't be able to see them, but there's the Howardian Hills, Howard, after Castle Howard, Howardian Hills, which lead up to the North York Moors. North York Moors, not North Yorkshire Moors. Always makes me irritated when people get that wrong. Mind you, as you'll know from my last cycle ride, I'm not one to boast about accuracy. I was calling the A61 the A64 throughout, and of course the A64 is the road to York, which I drove up today to get here. And that was the A61 on the other video. As I also said on the other video, I don't claim to be 100% accurate in my facts, but I'm not a tour guide or an encyclopedia. I love this time of year when the blossom is still out. It's gorgeous. Actually, it's not very nice with these fast cars. It's scary. Hello. But soon we'll be turning off to a little hamlet that you wouldn't go down there unless you were going to it. Is it a hamlet? Is it a village? Anyway, it's Myton-on-Swale, which is, it says it's a dead end, but it's not if you know the route. Hello. And it's great for cyclists because, touch wood, it's quiet. Why are people always in such a hurry? Urgent, urgent, urgent. Apologies if it is a bit bumpy. The road surfaces are not the best at the moment. There's a tiny bit of suspension on this bike. It's built in here because this bike was built for a little bit of off-road as well as road riding. So hopefully it absorbs a little bit of impact. But my tyres are fully inflated and that makes it a bit more bumpy. Right, we turn off here, we turn left. Heading towards the little village of Myton-on-Swale, because it's still the river. It's the River Swale. It comes all the way from the Yorkshire Dales, from Swaledale, which is the dale that's north of Wensleydale. Yeah, there's usually a couple of horses tethered here, and here they are. I hope they've got enough to drink. The village itself is on a no-through road, which ends in a footbridge over the Swale. There was me saying it's quiet. Well, it was Saturday, I suppose. As I said, there's a footbridge over the River Swale. It's a bit bigger, a bit wider than a footbridge, but it's not a road bridge. But what it is very old. I think it was built in the 1860s, and it's listed, made of iron, as you'd expect from that era. Hello. Doesn't actually lead anywhere apart from to a footpath through some pasture, and I've kind of ridden my bike a bit through there to take a shortcut to Borough Bridge, but at some points you have to get off the bike and push and walk. Come on, there's a big van behind me. Overtake me, please. Overtake me. Overtake me. Thank you. I hope I managed to edit out all the bits where I'm blowing my nose, because all this pollen sets off my hay fever. So apologies if I miss them and if I sniff a bit. Should have taken an antihistamine, shouldn't I? Anyway, we're coming up to the tiny little village of Myton-on-Swale, and somewhere, people don't know exactly where, but it might have been around about the pasture, the other side of the bridge, though it was a different bridge back then, and no one knows precisely where that was located. If you do, tell me down in the comments. Back in the, I think it's 14th century, the 1300s, the Scots came down marauding, and there was a battle against the forces, the army led by the Archbishop of York. I mean, I don't think he physically led it, I don't know, maybe he did, but anyway, the Scots gave the Yorkshire people a real kicking, absolutely routed them, and apparently lots of Yorkshiremen died, or the bodies were thrown, or they fell into the river Swale. The bridge is just down here. It's all a no-through road, you can't go anywhere from here. It's actually a bridleway, that's why I could ride my bike along a bit of the pasture. And ahead you can see the iron bridge, and here the going gets a bit bumpy, not too bad, but it's not surface. So if you were doing a walk around here, you could do a walk over here, and you can get to Borough Bridge faster than if you were on the road. So here we are, this ancient bridge. I didn't realise how ancient it was until I looked it up. As you can sort of see, it just leads over into pasture. So it's not known exactly where this battle was, but this here, that you can see, is the River Swale. And there were lots of bodies in it apparently after the battle. So the Scots must have come quite a way. The other side. This, the river here, it ends up flowing into the River Yore, which is spelt U-R-E. It's always quite funny to hear them try to pronounce that on things like the Tour de Yorkshire. They call it the River but it's the Yore, U-R-E. And the Yore's a bit strange because as it heads towards York, it changes its name and it actually becomes the River Ouse. So it's actually the same river. And the River Yore comes all the way from Wensleydale. So this one comes from Swaledale, and the Yore comes all the way from Wensleydale. But they all end up in York. So, bit of history for you there. Now, we have to retrace our steps just slightly out of the village where we turn left into what cyclists like to call Ken's Corridor. Why do we call it Ken's Corridor? You'll find out in a moment. Put my camera back. There we go. See that phone box on the right? Apparently there's a phone box in Easingwold, which we'll go through on this ride, which is listed. So it'd be quite interesting to find it and to see what's special about it. A little church. little churchyard. Maybe we'll go in and have a look at that on another ride. I've never actually been inside. Try and find out some interesting facts about it. Now here we turn left. We came down there and now we're going this way, and this is Ken's corridor, because on the left, as you can see, it looks like it's the grounds of a stately home, and it is. And because on the left is a small-ish Georgian manor house that was owned until fairly recently by Ken Morrison of supermarket fame. So obviously made enough money from the supermarket chain to buy a rather splendid house, which is on the left coming up. This is, I don't know who lives here now, but it's not Ken Morrison because I think he's passed away. Can you see it? It's quite amazing. Nice and small. And this is all the parkland with sheep now, which I guess used to belong to the manor house or whatever it is. We go left again just up here, and we go on the road that takes us directly past the old stable blocks, which are quite some distance from the hall. I don't suppose that bothered whoever lived there when it was built. The stable blocks now divided into private apartments. There we go, left. And they look kind of Victorian, so they were possibly built later than the house we shall see in a moment. This is a nice cut through though for cyclists, because it's usually pretty deserted of traffic, usually, if you come on a weekday. There's also what looks like an old water tower. I don't know if you can see that on the left. Don't know if anyone lives in that. Maybe they do. Anyway, it's a very pretty stable block. Here it is. Be really peaceful living there. So she's seeing another car coming behind. We're heading towards a village called Brafferton, Helperby, or Helperby Brafferton, whichever you prefer. It's actually two villages that now are sort of lumped together as one, and I think people refer to it as Helperby. Helperby on the signs anyway. I need to do a bit more research about that. I believe that back in the day, a few hundred years ago, there was a fire which burnt down most of the buildings, so they had to be rebuilt in the 18th century. I need to check that. I might be wildly inaccurate. There's a strange hall as well, which I'm not sure what it was. I'll have to check that out. And a very, very ugly former Methodist church, which I think now is apartments or a house. Helperby is one of those villages that, if it was located somewhere else, like the Cotswolds, for example, it would be full of visitors and antique shops and pay display car parks and things, because it's got that look about it. But because it's here, I guess you wouldn't know about it unless you cycled or drove through it. There is a pub, and there's two pubs at least, and there are some shops, which is unusual in a 21st century village where most of them have been sadly closed down. Which reminds me, where I showed you Alne Cross, if you head behind me in the opposite direction, it takes you to the village of Tollerton, which has a rather nice village store and post office. Village store salesmen were really yummy. Locally made cakes and other produce, really nice pork pies. I mentioned that on my other cycle ride from another pork pie village shop. Pork pies are not good for the digestion when you're cycling, or when you're not cycling, when you are a certain age. Right. We turn left here, it's bumpy. Apologies. This will take us past the garden centre. It's an old walled garden. Was it something to do with Myton Hall, or was it something to do with Helperby? I don't know. Again, if you know, put it in the comments. This is the road we were on before we turned off to Myton, by the way. Ends up at Borough Bridge, but we're not going to Borough Bridge today. We're going to look at old railway lines, among other things. That's the garden place on the left. Oh, awful road surface. These cars that go really fast, they must really do knacker their suspension. I really must. This is what must have been an old garden, market garden, walled garden. Don't know if you can see it. Little corner lodge there, and there's one on the other side. I think it might be something to do with whatever it is here in the helper bee. A bit further on. Mostly brick round here because it's quite flat. Well, it's not that flat if you're cycling, but it is quite flat. Here we are, helper bee Brafferton. And sometimes they call it Brafferton helper bee. Helper bee Brafferton. Look at it's a really quite splendid village street, main street. See what I mean by if you stuck this somewhere like the Cotswolds or Oxfordshire, it would be really busy. Now here we have on the left is a strange place that I really need to find out what it is. What does it say? Can you see it? What does it say on there? It says, oh, it's in French. Les something font something tres petites. Oh, I wonder why it's in French. See if it says anything down here. Of course I'll look this up. I should have looked it up before I came. Look at it. I wonder if it was a school or something. Or an orphanage. I don't know. I'll look it up and I'll let you know on the screen. The old bakery, that one is. I think there's a new bakery further down. Warm day today. One of the pubs, old almshouses on the left. A little fountain to commemorate Queen Victoria doing something. We've got a half timbered house here on the right. You don't see too many of those out here. It must have been one of the ones that didn't burn down. Coming up on the left is the hideous, ugly old Methodist church. Really, I think it's really ugly. Some people might like it, but I think there's a C of E church down there as well. I've never been down there, so on another ride we'll come and have a look. And there's another pub on the right. Oops. We're going left towards Borough Bridge, but we'll be turning off at just outside the village. Now soon we can go over, hang on, we go over what used to be an old railway, and I think it was the old railway to Borough Bridge, Again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, please. Look, more affordable homes spilling over into the countryside. Talk about my opinion on affordable homes on the last video. I mean, that manor house was obviously affordable for Ken Morrison, so you could say that was an affordable home. Enough said. By the way, if there's a bit of rattling, which I'll try to get rid of in the video, at the moment it's not the ball, the metal ball inside the protein shake, it's actually the little bit of a suspension sort of tends to rattle a bit. So this is what we used to be the bridge across the old railway line, and it would be the old line to Borough Bridge. Oh. Can you see it? So it's difficult to show it when the camera's lower down, and I don't want to fall over, and I just stop my hands in some nettles. See what I do? I sacrifice all of this. So I don't know if you can see there. The track bed goes into what would have been, I guess, local station, but now it goes into a farm shed. So that's railway branch line number 1. These are all lines that would have branched off the East Coast main line, which of course is still very much in existence, and we will be crossing that. We'll be crossing it twice on this ride. As I said on my Aberdeen to Penzance longest train ride in the UK video, north of York, there's many little bridges over the railway, crisscross the railway, and I cycle over loads of them on my various cycle rides. So we are turning right just up here. This one that turning right is really handy. Oh, I should say I've got a cat eye bar end mirror, which acts like a wing mirror or a rear view mirror on a car, and it's really handy for seeing what's behind you, whether you're turning right or overtaking or anything. They're dirt cheap. I think you can get them for under a tenner, and I'll tell you what, they could be a lifesaver. I couldn't do without mine. I even carry a spare, because it's the ball and socket joint that can fall out, and if I lost it along the way, I'd want to replace it. Number 1 essential cycling accessory. Coming up ahead are the Howardian Hills that I mentioned earlier, and you may or may not be able to see it on the GoPro. Can't now, but I can't see it now, but I will be able to see, is the White Horse, which is a figure, hillside figure, not as ancient as one would think. In fact, I don't think it's ancient at all, but it looks like looks like it's ancient. It's up above the village of Kilburn, and Kilburn is famous for the Mouse Man, for his carved oak furniture that features a little mouse somewhere on each of the items he makes. We don't go through Kilburn on this ride, but we'll be doing it on another ride. There's a very windy and very steep lane that leads up to the White Horse and beyond, which I've done in one. I have done it in one. I was really pleased with myself a couple of years ago. So where are we heading towards now? Well, we're heading towards a tiny little hamlet of Little Sesse, which has the sweetest little Victorian church with adjacent school, primary school. It still is a primary school. A very peaceful, pretty spot with a little Gothic arch bridge just before you get there. You wouldn't know it was a Gothic arch bridge unless you leant over to have a look at the arch underneath. And we will eventually get to the A19. Got my A roads right this time. The A19 from York, which we cross and head towards the Howardian Hills. Yeah, the clicking is it's here. It's the suspension. I'll see if the anti-click tool on my Power Director video editing software manages to get rid of it. Sometimes that messes up the voice though. We shall see. So I apologise. Bit of wind today as well. Well, breeze. We go past what used to be another bit of the Borough Bridge line before too long, close to where it joins the East Coast main line. At least I think it's the Borough Bridge line. Depends what side of I can't remember what side of the main line it's on. Always smells here, that farm. I'm glad you can't smell it. I think it's pigs. I have to check my GoPro battery before long, because I found out these batteries run out after 1 hour, which is a pain. But the new SD cards seem to work, and I've got another new one in today, which is an Amazon one. Amazon Basics SD card. I think it's about 256 is it gigabytes? Something like that. These videos take quite a while to edit because GoPro splits the recordings into, I think it's about 17-minute sections, so you've got however many sections of 17 minutes that you have to string together, and so if you're trying to edit anything like the sound, it can take ages because you've got to do it on each one. It doesn't seem to be able to flatten them all together so you can do it just in one go. So it may be we're stuck with the clicking. We're coming up to what used to be an old station, which is where that railway line I mentioned was. Branch line. This building on the right is an old station building. They all have that look about it. This is Pillmore, and here is where the line would have been. See, go down there and then down there. I think this probably joins the line that we crossed before, so it's probably still part of the branch line to Borough Bridge, but I will have to check that. So I'm guessing there would have been a level crossing here. saw a lot of boggy flooding over on the left in the woodland from this terrible, terrible winter and early spring that we've had. Here is the East Coast main line. Still 4 tracks here. Slow on the outside, fast on the middle. And some of these bridges had to be raised when it all was electrified to allow for the pantographs and the electrics. Pillmore. It's now with LNER sign though. Pillmore Cottages. So obviously where we crossed what was the old track bed a few minutes ago would have fed into the East Coast main line somewhere over there. So the next point of interest is the village of Little Sesse. So sweet. The going gets a bit tougher as we head over the other side of the A19. It gets a bit hillier, but it's doable. And then there's quite a nice, relatively downhill section into the market town of Easingwold. Many of these villages and towns around here have ancient names that go back to Saxons and even the Danes, Vikings. There's a lot of information on the internet because Easingwold, with the wold, it sounds like it should be in the Yorkshire Wolds, but it's not. It's in the foothills of the Howardian Hills. I looked at what the old ancient version of wold meant, and I think it was hill. Yeah, so Cotswolds, cots, I think comes from cottages, so hilly cottage area maybe, question mark. Yorkshire Wolds, the Yorkshire Hills, which incidentally are not the same as the North York Moors, the Howardian Hills, or the Yorkshire Dales, or the Pennines. They're in East Yorkshire, and they're stunning. They feature on quite a few of my videos, my older videos, so do have a look through. Now I can see the White Horse on the hill over there. I don't know if you can, because the viewfinder on this, it makes everything quite small, but it's right over there on the hill. I could see it from the train when I did that Aberdeen to Penzance trip back in March. If you're into railways, do check out my rail videos from March. train. I think it's an Azuma going down the East Coast Main Line over there. In March I took an Azuma, LNER Azuma, from Leeds to Aberdeen and stayed in Aberdeen for a day, and then I did the absolutely crazy, barking mad 13.5-hour rail journey, longest single rail journey in the UK, from Aberdeen all the way to Penzance. And I stayed in Penzance for a day. I went to St Ives on the little train, lovely at St Ives, and then on the final day caught a train back to Leeds. Bonkers, but great fun. If you like trains, you have to like trains. This is little Cessay. Hello. And this is the little bridge that if you're doing this ride, stop here and have a look over it, because it's got a Gothic arch, a little stream there. And this is a sweet, hello, sweet little church. This is so sweet. And it's the primary school next door. Now we are turning right here. A wigwam over there in the school playing field. I was going to go on a ride yesterday, but I dropped my phone on the floor and broke it, and I had to rush out and get a new one, and then I had to do all the uploading and all that bollocks that you have to do with a new phone, copying over things. Luckily I've got a tablet which has my account on with all the apps and stuff, so I could copy that over, because obviously couldn't do it on the other phone because it was broken. And then we had a bit of a scare with my mum, who is 97 next week. She has dementia. Oh, I had to rush her to the GP at the end of the day because she started to behave even more strangely than ever, which was really worrying. GP just said it's a progression of the disease, which is a horrible disease. So it's been a busy week, and I've managed to fit in cycle rides and videos, and I've also managed to fit in my recorder lesson. If you like music, recorder music, check out my playlist. And yeah, I took Mum to see a care home where we're planning to move her to at the end of this month, so that's all going to go a bit pear-shaped. So I would like to do 66 cycle rides in my 66th year, but things might get in the way if everything kicks off with my mum. But I don't think she's that keen on the idea of moving into a care home, but there's no alternative, unfortunately. And it's upsetting because she thinks my dad is still alive when he died 14 years ago. She rang me up 8 times the other night to ask me to get in touch with my dad so he could come and pick her up because she didn't like where she was in her flat. And she said, I can't get through, his number's not working. Oh. And when I took her to the care home to be assessed, she kept saying things like, well, I'm going to have to ask my husband. I've got a husband in Yorkshire. I'm going to have to ask him, and I don't know what he'll say. I don't know, because of course he'll have to come too, and I don't know if he'll want to. And she said that over and over again. And she kept saying, I'm going to get a train tomorrow to go home, and my husband's going to pick me up at the station. So you can see it's been quite an upsetting week. Hello. But I found cycling and recorder playing quite restful and just gets me away from it all. And other people, if you're watching this and you're of similar age to me, you might know what it's like to have elderly parents who have lost their marbles and have completely changed into someone different. So sad. This is Myton-on-Swale, which is the last village before we cross the A19. It's got a really old pub. If you can hear me above the wind, it's quite windy now. Oh, bumpy. Look, little old pub on the right. Hi there. So I was going to do a ride in the Pennines, climb some hills, get it out of my system a bit, but I decided probably best to wait a bit, because Pennines around the Huddersfield area can be quite challenging. I'll check the battery in a minute and maybe change it. a little bit of a climb before we go down to the A19, which we will cross with care. There we go, over the brow of the hill and down to the A19. You might be able to see the white horse clearer over there now. Right, just changed my battery. Let's see how long this one lasts for. This is the original GoPro battery, so it is old. Because this is a Hero 4, which I bought a number of years ago. So hopefully you can see the white horse on the hillside coming up on the left. Maybe. Just all climb. And an awful lot of crows. Starting to get a bit hillier. battery at 2 o'clock, just after 1 now. This is Carlton Hustwaite. Which has a pub and it has a blacksmith's. Also has an interesting half-timbered wattle and daub house on the right before too long, which kind of looks a bit out of place. It's thatched and looks a bit odd. I mean, you do get some thatched buildings around here, but not many. Very rare. So we've got the pub on the left here. With a beer garden. And on the right, this thatched cottage. Looks as though it should be in Suffolk or somewhere. And a bit further along is the blacksmith's. And over there is the little chapel. Over there on the right, where there's that lamp, I think that's the blacksmith. Or is it here? No. No, that's the name of the farm. I once went down there to try and cut off a corner, but I ended up in deep mud on a really awful bridleway, which was horrible. It got really muddy and you can't cycle along it. It was just deep mud. But this is a really sweet little lane, and it crosses the old track bed of what would have been the railway from the East Coast main line again, all the way through to Myton. Through the village of Easingwold, which is another wold that isn't in the Yorkshire wolds. And past Ampleforth. And just beyond Ampleforth village is Ampleforth College, where James O'Brien on LBC radio used to go to school. there's a little serve yourself cafe as well on the right, just by where the old railway line would have been. Thank you. Hi. Yeah, it's beautiful, yeah. Makes a change.
I've had my shorts out, I think.
Yes. We're coming up to where the old railway line would have run, along there, and along there. And the little cottage, which may be an old railway building, an old railway station, it's got a serve yourself cafe with ice cream. Probably a honesty box. Has slate gates. It definitely looks like an old railway station building. It's that style. And so that's the line went along there and along there. peek over their fence. Not when they're in the garden. And this crosses a stream, not the railway line. There it is. And the railway line carries on there to the village of Coxwold. And the old signal box is still there. It's now someone's shed in their garden. And when you cycle past, you can see the old track bed. If you haven't gathered, I do like checking out where old railway lines were, branch lines and so on, before Dr. Beeching got his hands on them. Dr. Beeching had a second phase where he was going to close even more railway lines, but thankfully he was prevented from doing so. Of course, he has all his money invested in roads, road transport and so on. He was always going to be a little bit biased when it came to railways, and also the railways were in decline in places after the war. Infrastructure was a bit knackered in places, but some lines are really popular, like the Harrogate Ripon route. Anyway, a bit of a climb here up to the junction where we turn right. If we turn left, we would go down a really pretty road to Coxwold, which we will do on another video. Hello.
Nice in the sunshine.
This is.
Warm.
Yes. Turning right to Hustwaite. Those cyclists are faster than me because they're probably half my age or younger. They have faster bikes, lighter bikes. With treadless tyres, and they probably a lot lighter than me. But then I don't do it to race. turn right into the village. Two ways here you can go. You can either carry it there, up a hill, and turn right down a hill, or you can go along here and turn left and go up a hill. I've started coming this way. It's just prettier. And it gives you a bit of a break after that climb that we've just done. We go left here, just opposite the church. It's a pretty village. And then we start to climb a bit before descending, and then there's a fairly easy stretch all the way to Easingwold, which is nice cycling if it's not busy. Right. We're going to go up that climb that you can see ahead. Just remember what I called the rules. Relax your elbows, relax your shoulders, relax your hands. Slow down, get onto the lowest gear, and then just use your legs, your thighs to poodle up. It's only a short climb. My cycle coach is a guy in Sussex who coaches me over the internet, which is a lot cheaper than a one-to-one local coach. And also, he's great. He's the same age as me, i.e. not a spring chicken. I've been with him now for 4 or 5 years. Can you believe that? He is so good. I'll put a link to his website below should you be looking for a cycle coach who can coach you. When I say online, it's all done by emails, and every few weeks he calls you to just catch up with you, see where you are, what your goals are. It's all personalised, it's all bespoke. He's a really nice guy called Paul. Highly recommended. I've seen massive improvements in my cycling and in my motivation since I started with him. He'll be really pleased I got out on the road this week, because he knows that I really hate doing indoor cycling on my indoor trainer. But he's very good at giving bespoke programs that are rarely the same, so there's interest. I don't know if you can hear me with the wind, but it's also aimed at achieving your personal goals. Well, this is a really nice easygoing section towards Easingwold. excuse me, it is quite breezy, isn't it? I'll see what I can do about removing wind, but again, it's difficult when you've got so many GoPro clips to string together. Or you could turn the sound off, and that would avoid you having to listen to my monotonous voice talking all the time. Eee. My cycle coach is a really nice guy, because last year I overpaid by accident, and he said, should I refund you? I said, no, give it to Macmillan Cancer Charity, because one of my really good friends has got cancer. And so he said, yes, of course, he says, and I'll add some of my own to it, to the donation, which I thought was really nice. He also volunteers for a hospital radio station, so he can get you playlists, or he makes playlists if you are getting bored with your indoor cycling during the winter. Or you could just watch my videos, couldn't you, and pretend it's a lovely spring day in May like today, cycling towards Easingwold. Where we will see if we can find two things. One, that listed telephone box, and try and find why it's listed. We'll do that first, and then we'll look at the second thing. We won't go into the market square on this occasion. We will go into it on other rides. It's a lovely market square. Local shops, cafes, post office, toilets, free parking, yeah, free parking. And sometimes they have little markets. There's a market hall in the centre, but we'll go through it on another ride. I do like Easingwold. It's a good starting point for quite a number of cycle rides too. It's good for cycle rides into the Howardian Hills. Easingwold is on a national cycle route, which we shall join once we've had a look at stuff there, all the way back to Alne, where we started. Oh, here's another reason I'm not so fast, that I don't wear cleated cycling shoes. Not since I fell off the bike and broke my arm. And also I've got a bone spur on the top of my right foot that I have to keep my shoes quite loose and laced up in a certain way. Again, a sign of old age. I've had an x-ray of it just before Christmas, and a lot of the cartilage has worn away, and there's also evidence of arthritis in the bones, which is a bit annoying. But I went to see a podiatrist the other week and she gave me some special insoles, and I saw it on the NHS. Really good. And then I'm seeing another physio on the NHS, I think next week, about my knee. Left knee keeps giving way when I'm walking. So far it hasn't affected my cycling. All these annoying things as you get older. Could be worse, yes. I am really lucky. I'm really lucky because, as I said, one of my really good friends has cancer. She's going through chemotherapy and she feels really evil. Poor woman. I am so lucky, so fortunate. It's that age, a certain age, your friends start to get ill, and it's horrible to see them get ill. So you want to make them well. But it also gives you a real sense of just get out there and do it, use it or potentially lose it. And I mentioned in the last video, I've been doing a bit of lifting of dumbbells and squats with leg strengthening exercises, ankle weights and so on. I think the link should be in the description below this video to Kaylee Cohen's strength videos, strength training, which are wonderful. They are amazing, and there's so many of them that you don't get bored. But as I said last time, check with your doctor before doing anything. Build up slowly. You have to be careful with your back, your neck, your knees, your feet, your everything's when you get to a certain age. And of course, you're losing muscle and bone density, especially women after the menopause. But doing strength training helps to, I don't know, I don't think it reverses it, but it helps to keep what you've got, as I understand it. So that's another thing, those guys cycling who are probably more than half my age, they would have had a lot more muscle. They haven't got to the peak when you start losing it. I just want to cycle for as long as I can, and I really don't want to have to move to an e-bike. I really don't. I want to, for as long as I can, just stick to a normal bike. Right, we're heading into Easingwold. Here's one of those affordable houses on the left. As you can see, very affordable. More affordable houses coming up. All the villages and towns are growing. It's bollocks when they talk about affordable housing, isn't it? And back in the day when I bought my first house, it was only £15,000. We turn left here. Terrible road surface here, like natural traffic calming. We're coming up to a little mini roundabout where we will be going right to Alne, where we started off, but I want to go and try and find this this phone box. The one that's listed. So this is grade 1, I think. And I think it's on the road that's straight ahead. When I first came to Easingwold, I thought this was the main street, but it's not. The main street is the marketplace, which is over on the left. Right, let's see if we can find a phone box. I'm not seeing any phone box. It's a post box. Unless it's not like proper phone box. Oh, itchy nose. Well, marketplace is there on the left. I might go around it, I don't know. If we can't find the phone box, I might. No phone box. If I don't find it, I'll have to Google it, see what it looks like and where it is. So we are going to see the market square. Yes. Thank you. I'll tell you what, if you don't find it soon, I'm going back, because this is the road to Crake. Strange town. Oh, there's a phone box ahead. It just looks like an ordinary one. I'll tell you what. Right, I see the market hall ahead. All sorts of things there, cafes, pubs, shops. It's a one-way entrance and exit to the marketplace. Oh, there's a little market going on, street market. Really nice little town. And we didn't find the phone box, but we are now going to find another point of interest, which I know where it is this time. If you want to do a cycle ride from here, there's often parking places near the church. There's a little road coming up on the right, one-way street. If you go up there, parking spaces on the left. this little road coming up on the right. Parking spaces on the right, sorry, not left. That car, it was loud exhaust and go faster stripes. Look at me, I'm so macho. Yeah. Excuse me, sorry I swore. Right, we're joining the cycle route towards York, cycle route number 65. And we are heading back to Alne, but first I must show you something. And the clue is in the name of this street coming up. And at the end of this street, as you can see, is this large building on the right, and that is the former railway hotel of the Easingwold station, which was over there. As you can see, there's housing now here, and this hotel is now private residences, apartments. Easingwold Railway was different from the other branch lines because even after the railways were nationalised, it continued to be private. And the reason it closed in about 1950s, I think it was because it ran out of money. Oh, and there used to be a little wooden railway station on the other side of this hotel, which actually burnt to the ground, so they never rebuilt it. And it joined the East Coast Main Line at Alne Station, which is just before you get to Alne. I'll point it out when we get there. So, this would have been the lead up to the old station. And that would have been the old station hotel. So the station would have been down here, the line would have come down there, Station Court. So yeah. The old station house it's called. I think it's quite an ugly building actually. But if you Google it, you can find old photographs of it with the station next to it and information on the history of that strange little branch line to Easingwold. It's fairly easy going back to Alne, and we cross the railway, of course, at Alne station, which is where the branch line for Easingwold would have branched off. We go left here, following the cycle route. They're up there, that's also a cycle route, different one. Oh, a bit itchy nose. Little branch line would have chugged along somewhere on there, along the left. If you look at Ordnance Survey map, you'll be able to see the route, as often can be the case with these old lines. Whereabouts across the A19, which used to go through Easingwold along that road where I was looking for the phone box, first of all. But now there's a bypass, so we cross it. Doesn't feature on older Ordnance Survey maps, which I used to have, and I was a bit puzzled, but here it is. Hi there. See this M here for museum, there's something, I think it's Roman along here. I don't know where, obviously up here. Tell you what, if we cross over here, we'll have a look on the map. See what we can see. I must have done this particular section so many times over the years. We'll be coming before too long to the East Coast main line at Alne station. The station's no longer there, but it's where the Easingwold branch line used to join. So I'm assuming it must have had a shuttle service, because it wouldn't have been on the main line, the little private engine or whatever it was. You know, probably a bay, maybe. It's Arne station, have to look it up. A bit like when I went to St Ives and there's a little bay at the station there. St Earth station. There's a little bay for the shuttle service to St Ives. Hi there. You might or might not be asking yourself, if you've watched this far, and thank you to everyone who has watched this far, do I ever cycle in groups? And the answer to that is no. No, because I like to do my own thing. I like to stop and explore and challenge myself, and of course won't be able to keep up with the younger riders, but I don't want to ride with the older ones either. And the last time I rode with someone was with my husband, but I think it was 9 years ago, 9 years ago, and he cycled into me, and he and his bike fell on top of me and my bike, and it broke my elbow and damaged my spine, which wasn't nice. But I had to cycle back to the nearest village so my husband could then go and get the car to pick me up. So I was cycling, it was, I can't even remember which arm it was. No, it was this arm, of course it was, I fell over that way. So I was having to cycle. I couldn't use this arm because you can't get any pressure, and I was so much pain. But when it's broken, you don't get the pressure. That's why you can't drive either when you've got a broken elbow. And you don't realise how much you need to use both hands to get on and off a bike and things. Anyway, the arm eventually healed itself, but this spinal thing was awful. Turns out I had a herniated disc in my lower spine. Ended up having to pay for a private MRI scan and some private injections into the bottom of my spine, which were really painful, but in the end they did the trick. And touch wood, it's been alright since then. Right, I think we're coming up to the East Coast Main Line, the bridge. So it would have been here that the little branch line joined the main line at what was Alne station, which is a bit of a distance outside Alne village. So there we are, the main line into York. More affordable housing on the left now, which is quite new. Great if you like trains. So it's not too far back to the village of Alne itself, where we started. So I hope you've enjoyed this ride, and if you managed to get this far in the video, I congratulate you. Because these videos are quite long. Yeah, if you get there, you get to the A19 into York. Hi there. There's someone local in Leeds who's videoing me on the 20th. It's a video production company who are making a video to try and get people to get interested in cycling, and I replied to his message on Facebook, his Facebook post, sent him a link to my last video. I must get back to him. He said, yeah, we'd love to video you. So I guess I'd be talking about sticking your bike in the back of the car, going out into the countryside, and cycling when you're over 60. Maybe. Here we are. This is Alne. and we're parked by the church, which is a bit further along. Oh, I forgot to point out, if you are in Alne at any time doing a cycle ride, there's a little wheelbarrow thing, stall thing on the corner. We'll be going past it. It sells vegetables and things, jams and whatnot. The pub. Actually, we won't be going past the vegetable stall because it was up the other road. But here we are, coming back to the church. Little church. It says there's Commonwealth war grave here. That was usually for people who died in the UK after being brought back from the wars, as opposed to dying on the battlefield. It looks very old, doesn't it? I'll have to look at why the tower is made of brick. Smell really damp, don't they? Sweet little church. Presumably this was here when they had the plague. of the door, that must be ancient. I wonder if these graves go back to when the plague hit, but I would say they're probably later than that. Because I think the plague was it about 1605 or something, I don't know. Which is a long time ago. I'm going to start volunteering, doing research at Undercliff Cemetery in Bradford, the famous Undercliff Cemetery, where the great and the good of Bradford are buried in huge mausoleums. It's one of the big Victorian municipal cemeteries. And I'm going to help out with research there. I'm going to see them this week, well, next week. So anyway, thank you for watching.